If you're thinking about buying a multifamily property, whether it's just a 2-unit, a duplex, all the way up to 100 units, this video is going to cover what you need to know before you buy. Because with multifamily, you can really set yourself up for life with just one good multifamily purchase. However, you can also lose a ton of money if you make a bad multifamily purchase. Ask me how I know. Almost happened to me. So currently I own 4 small multifamily properties. However, this video is going to apply for pretty much any size multifamily. Think of this as like the fundamentals before getting into multifamily investing. So the very first thing is you want to evaluate all of the comps. I know that sounds obvious, but I see a lot of people, maybe they come into money or they have, they get approved for a lot and they just want to get into multifamily, so they just purchase something that, they think might be a good investment. But if you're in a rush to do a deal, that's when you can get yourself into trouble. You really want to evaluate, like before you buy any deal, like evaluate a minimum of like 10 properties and then, choose out of 10 deals, there's going to be a few that are probably way overpriced, and then there's probably going to be a few that might have potential, but much less if you can evaluate like 20 or 30, or you can really cherry pick those deals. One of the biggest mistakes I made when I got into real estate investing was basically just buying the first thing that I saw. I was so excited. I had my approval letter, and this actually wasn't multifamily, but it kind of applies to multifamily as well. I didn't really evaluate many comps. I said, oh, I'm approved for this amount, I can purchase that, and it wasn't really that good of a deal. Even though it was cheap, it doesn't make it a good deal. It's funny because there's some multifamily investors, like some of the big time multifamily investors that are doing just their minimum criteria is like 100 units. They might only do like 1 deal per year. Like imagine that. It's like, how many deals did you, I know some, it's funny, there's like this agent, he brags about all these like new construction deals that he does, right? Where you're making like very small amounts because new construction doesn't really pay anything. Whereas these like savvy, like multimillionaire multifamily investors are doing like 1 deal per year. But they evaluate so many different properties, and that 1 deal is worth like millions of dollars. So you don't need to be like that selective, but you should at a very minimum try to evaluate, let's say like 25 deals, and then choose the best from that. The next thing you need to know is you need to ask the agent, or if you're just dealing directly with the seller, find out like what major improvements they've done, because sometimes you won't even be able to see the improvements. Like if they did a brand new roof, or they replaced all the plumbing or replaced all the electrical, like that's not going to be obvious to you, but they may have spent $30,000 on a roof, $30,000 on electrical, that's $60K, and maybe they spent, 20, 30K on something else. So you really need to try to find a list of like basic upgrades that they've done over the last few years. Even if it was like 10 years ago, that's still like helpful information so that you can make a better offer and be better prepared once you purchase it. And a good listing agent is going to have that information for you. They're going to say, look, here's a list of upgrades. But sometimes they might not have it. If it's like a distressed off-market deal, I remember I was purchasing one, and they were like, oh yeah, we like replaced all the AC units. And they didn't even like tell me that ahead of time, but I was like, okay, that's not bad at all. Like I'm pretty happy with that. So try to get as much information as possible. Next thing to know is to be comfortable with the location. There's a couple ways you can do this. Because multifamily is really cool because you can do it nationwide. Like you could buy a property in Hawaii or whatever, even if you live halfway across the country. It's a more scalable business than if you're like flipping houses, because you can get like property managers, and if you have enough units, the economics make sense to do that. So as far as location, if you're not able to actually see it in person, which I would highly recommend, you can do like Google Street Views, and just like some people do driving for dollars virtually, where they go on the Google Street View and just kind of drive around the neighborhood, so to speak, just clicking on the map and seeing what's around. Are there grocery stores around? Is there power plants? What's in the neighborhood? Are there good things, bad things? Are there parks? Are there schools? What do they have going on? Whatever location it is that you're purchasing, because with multifamily, it's like you're not always able to just purchase in your backyard. Like I would recommend when you're getting started that you try to purchase in your backyard, but many times, multifamily properties might just be in different locations. There's some areas where they just don't have any multifamily properties, or if they do, it's like a 2-unit is worth like $1 million, and maybe you want something that has, more units to it. So you should try to become a neighborhood expert wherever it is you're buying. Like if someone asks you about that neighborhood, you should be able to say it, like spit off like 10 different pieces of information about it. Like you should read articles, like Google that street. Google that neighborhood. Even if the articles are like 10 years old, you can still kind of get a general idea of kind of like what the neighborhood's doing, like where it's going, are there new developments coming in, that type of thing. The next thing to know before you buy is in regards to the tenants. You want to be able to see bank statements to show that the tenants have actually been paying their rent, and you also want to review leases. So this is kind of why I like Section 8, because it's just like guaranteed rental income from the government. But I used to work for a multifamily company, and before they would purchase, they would buy, they owned several hundred units, but whether they were buying like a 10-unit property or a 50-unit property, they would review every single lease to make sure, maybe they needed to renew the leases, they just wanted to make sure there was nothing weird in them. And they would also like review bank statements, because I know one investor, the seller was saying, oh yeah, the tenants pay, let's say it was like $10,000 per month. And so the buyer's going into that thinking, okay, I'm going to make $10,000 per month. Maybe there's a little bit left over for like collections and stuff like that, or a little bit I need to take into account for collections if there's delinquent rents and stuff like that. But then when they asked for the bank statements, they were actually only collecting about half of what they said they were grossing. So multifamily is all about numbers. So that's going to drastically affect your potential purchase price now that the property is worth like significantly less. So I think what they did is they worked it out where they lowered the sales price. Another option you could do is you could tell the owner, you say, look, you haven't collected rents for whatever it was, 6 months. So we're going to have to put some money into escrow from your like sales proceeds so that you can pay if they decide they want to continue not paying rent. So there are ways you can work it out if they're not paying. I wouldn't say it's just like a complete deal breaker, but you need to either lower the sales price or have the seller keep some escrow money for it. So real quick, if you've made it this far and you're looking to buy multifamily, reach out to me. I'm in the Washington, D.C. market. I'm an active agent and investor. But if you're in a different market, I can put you in touch with an agent that specializes in multifamily in that area. I also made a short mini course in the link below that just goes over how to buy your first small multifamily to make you a savvier buyer. Okay, so the next thing you should do is look up the history of the property. Now on Zillow, Redfin, or if you're an agent and you have MLS access, or you can get your agent to do this, look up the history of the property. Has it been sold like 10 times in the last 10 years? That might be a little bit of a red flag. Or was it, listed 5 years ago for like $1 million and they did all these renovations? Like, you want to try to find a mini history of the property. Before I look at any multifamily deal, I look in the tax records, I look in the property history, I read the description, because sometimes you'll find out information. Sometimes you might see a listing from like 2007 and it'll say like brand new roof. So then the roof was like 2007, so it's X amount of years old. You might see other information that's really helpful, or maybe not, maybe information that's a little more concerning, like needs a total gut job, or different things like that. So the more information you have as a buyer, the better offer you can make, and the better decisions you can make, the more information you have. If you just have like one or two pieces of information, you're kind of going into it somewhat blind. Next thing you want to know is to be aware of the zoning. So each property, whether it's 4 units, 10 units, 20 units, whatever, even 2 units, it could potentially have different zoning. So be familiar with the type of zoning that the property is that you're purchasing, because you want to know the highest and best use. I have a 2-unit property where I could actually do some more. I think I could build like 3 or 4 units on it, or it has like potential to do a lot more. And so because of that, I'm a little more aggressive in my underwriting. And there's some like 4-unit properties where you're actually allowed to build a basement unit, maybe you can add on. There's different possibilities. And some people get really savvy with the zoning, and then you can like see possibilities where other people can't really see it. Like sometimes there's like zoning where you can potentially build like 10 units or 20 units, and some people might not be aware of like how you do that. So you really want to like get savvy on that. I remember hearing a story about this one developer where he wanted to build like 5 units on the property, and it was currently set up, I think, as like a single family house, and he needed basically like 300 more square feet in the lot to be able to build these 5 units. So what he did is he asked the neighbor next door, or like the neighbor behind him, he's like, hey, I'll build you like a free deck, because this guy was like a contractor and a developer. So he built them a free deck in exchange for 300 square feet that he needed on the lot, so that he could build his 5 units and do his multifamily, or maybe it was like a condo conversion. But you get the idea. You want to be like savvy on this so that you can make better investment decisions. The next thing you want to find out is all the service plans that they have. So some might have like HVAC service plans, landscaping, pests, whatever it is. get all the service information you can. And it's usually good if the owner can provide like very detailed information of every single contact person and the exact amount. That's probably a good sign. If they're kind of like scatterbrained with all the information and they're not really that organized, it's not like a deal breaker, but it's something, you might be a little bit more cautious and really do your research to find out the exact like monthly costs with all these additional expenses that you have to pay. So reach out to me if you're looking to purchase multifamily or you need a good agent referral. And also check out all the links below. It's all helpful information for real estate investing. See you in the next video. Bye.